All right, how's everyone doing? Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. Are we live on Facebook too? Let me know if we are. Yes, we are. All right, awesome. So let's get started. I'm Nick Baldwin, co-founder of Lab Code Agents. Got Robert Lucido here with Lucido Global, and we got something pretty cool for you guys today. Obviously, one of the main talking points in the industry lately is this whole NAR situation with the commissions and all of these lawsuits. It's making everybody nervous. What's going to happen? Where's the industry going? There's definitely a lot of uncertainty. But there is one thing we know for sure, and there's been quite a few articles about this recently. There's been some in Inman about how real estate teams definitely have the competitive edge. And if you didn't think real estate teams dominated before, they're definitely going to dominate now. We're going to discuss like how you can add more value if you're on a team or if you decide to start a team. And when you add more value, you could charge more money and make more money, and everybody's happy all around. So, Rob, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so this webinar is brought to you by Lofty, previously Chime, in case you don't know what Lofty is. But yeah, so Rob, let's just jump right in and start chatting about the benefits of teams and how that can bring more value to the consumer.
So I remember actually just when you were doing the introduction, it made me recall the very first webinar I did with LCA was probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was on a similar topic. And I remember at that time, which is well before in advance of COVID, it was well before in advance of any litigation, we were already seeing a huge rise in the prevalence of teams. And the
Hmm.
consensus from our conversation was what was driving it then. And it was basically that consumers were basically demanding a one-stop shop. So an agent that could provide everything throughout their experience. And so agents were gravitating towards teams so they could get that leverage to provide more services and support throughout the transaction. That was 4 years ago. Now, the best study I think that you should track if you have any interest, you're grappling with this decision of being a solo agent or a team, is Real Trends actually tracks a study. They've done it for over a decade now. And so before I popped on, I just pulled it back up. And there was one in 2022, looking from 2011 to 2022, comparing the top 250 solo agents to the top 250 teams. Over that 10, 11 years, solo agents increased their business just under 14%.
Hmm.
Teams increased it by over 400%. So right now, when we're facing a decision with all the changes going on, to me, I think all that still holds true, but now it's on a whole different level because all the changes that are coming about, it's all about how you create and deliver value for your clients. And that value is the basis for what you can charge and collect effectively. So theoretically, if you can provide more value, you can charge a whole lot more. And so that's where I think teams can really come in. It's at least where we are helping all of our partners charge a lot more, make a lot more per sale.
Yeah, true, because the consumer, especially if you're taking a listing, they expect a full service. Right? They expect professional, not just professional photography and video, but I mean staging and all of the things that come with it. And as one person, sure you could do it, but when you have a team of people and everyone's kind of an expert in different areas, then you got that leverage. And I feel like I've always been on teams or ran teams, and this isn't a webinar to kind of be like, you're going to fail as a solo agent. That's not what this is about. It's just about like, listen, our commissions are on the line. And because buyers are also going to be having the option to pay commissions in some instances, you're now going to have to not just be that agent that opens a door and shows a house and I'm going to get paid. Now you're going to have to like present your value to buyers, not just sellers. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if a buyer's gonna have to pay commission, they're gonna most likely talk to multiple buyer agents as opposed to before when they would just show up at a house, you'd open the door and maybe they'd buy it, maybe they wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
They wouldn't
mean,
really care who showed
if
them the house.
if people listen to the last webinar we did where it was all about creating value, if we take a step back and look at how our industry has transacted itself for the past few decades, it really doesn't make sense. It really isn't in alignment with, a free-flowing industry in other industries. And I'll give you an analogy. Like, what if every car had to be sold for the same amount?
Hmm.
How much variety in selection would there be in the car industry? No, everything would be fitting a box tailored to that price point. And there would be no segmentation in the market, meaning segmentation is a term where different sectors of the consumer body will have a different willingness to pay. And so if you're willing to pay, let's say 50 grand for a car, but I'm only willing to pay 30, there's a different price point. That's the segmentation of the market. So someone will build a car for me and someone will build a car for you. If we are operating under the presupposition that compensation was very streamlined and it was dictated by a counterpart, a different an opponent almost in the negotiation, that really stifles our ability to increase the value we deliver. Now that that veil is totally lifted, the question again is, how much do you want to charge? And you should charge as much as you can, but you should never charge more than it's worth. So how do you back that up and deliver the value that is commensurate with the compensation that you want to collect, not that you're willing to settle for from the listing agent, for example?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Do you have anything you want to show us?
Sure. So so there was a few different bullet points in the essentially the description of the webinar. And so one of the questions was, I think it was number 2 on the description. It was around, why are teams so valuable right now? And then the
Hmm.
next questions were like, what should you do if you're trying to start a team? What are some best practices? And so one of the things I wanted to touch upon is something has become evident to me over the past few years. I think all of us go through this at some point where it's like, if I get to a certain point, it's really just set it and leave it, and I can take a step away.
Hmm.
But really what happens is what's called the problem solution cycle, meaning once you solve a problem, you're not done. You just have better problems. But there's always going to be a next problem in the cycle. And I can share my screen. I'll show you. Um, this is what the problem solutions cycle looks like. It's very simple. You get a problem, you solve it, you get your next problem, and you're going around the merry-go-round. I'll give you a couple examples of what this looks like in practice when you're starting to grow a team. One of them could be, hey, you recruit 5 agents. Awesome. But now you have no bandwidth to do your business, run the team, and train all those agents. So you're stymied. You've solved the problem only to create another problem which you're incapable of solving at that point. Another example would be, hey, you go out and sign 10 listings, but you have no support in the back end to actually
Hmm.
help you serve those listings. So your quality of service drops. And next thing you know, you're getting 1-star reviews, canceled listings, and now you're on a downward cycle. Another example, you go out and buy 100 leads, but you have no system or actual commitment to actually contacting them, nurture them, and converting them. So those are examples of how the problem solution cycle. And I thought it was apropos because obviously Lofty is sponsoring the webinar, but it's also been very true to our extent. How do you, if you're trying to build a team, if what's going to happen is you'll be 5 years down the road and you'll look back and invariably you'll look back and be like, oh, if I only had done this differently at the beginning, if I only had the foresight to set things up properly, I would have been in a position to actually seize that opportunity. Now, we grew from 30 million to 850 million just with one team in Maryland before we ever opened up other teams. So we know what it takes to scale. And all along that way, we were stuck on the problem solution cycle where we would solve a problem, we grew so fast, and then basically other aspects of the system would break down. Several years ago, we switched to Lofty. It was Chime then. And now all of our ecosystem is powered off of Lofty technology. And the scalability of the technology has allowed us to support that growth where in the past we couldn't. And so what I'm getting at is whenever, very commonly when I'm working with agents or teams, I get the conception that they regard technology as something that's ancillary or optional.
Mhm.
It's not intrinsically a part of their business. The second you want to grow a team, you really have to train yourself to be a business owner and operator, which means you need to have those systems, those operations in place. And technology is intrinsically a part of that. You can no longer view tech as something ancillary or secondary. So technology is the fabric upon which your business operates. Therefore, technology is critical. It's crucial to mitigating that problem solution cycle. So if you're trying to grow a team, if you're trying to scale your team, if you're looking to join a team, make sure that team has really solid systems and processes in place to either support your growth as an agent on the team or your growth as the team leader itself. So tech is the skeletal system, and then the people on the team is essentially the lifeblood. You can't have a solid body without one or the other. You got to have both. So that was one of the things that I thought was important to share as it pertained to Lofty. And I can show you some examples later on in the webinar of how that actually looks like and how we use tech in a different ways, how we use it for reporting to manage the business.
Yeah, so you said you went from 30 million to 800 million before you even decided to grow to different markets. Is that what you said?
That's correct.
And so like how did you how did you grow or leverage like scale the technology? What aspects of what statistics were you looking at within the team to figure out how you could expand to other markets?
Okay, so we started expanding before we switched to Chime Lofty. And so
Okay.
we have both sides of the equation. We've tried to expand. We were on Boomtown, and it was an absolute train wreck. Not scalable at all. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, it was not scalable at all. We had tons of bottlenecks. We were creating so many workarounds that the system was just breaking down. We had such low engagement. We couldn't get anyone to use it. People didn't see any value in it. It's like, what are we doing? We were paying a fortune for it too. And so we ran side-by-side trials with maintaining Boomtown as our primary system at the time, and then we put the other CRMs up against it on the side, and we ran labs,
Okay.
and Chime blew it out of the water. So we actually migrated our whole ecosystem over the next 4 months to completely off Boomtown over into Lofty.
So what were you looking for? Like what was, not to try to sell one or the other, but like what was Boomtown not doing and what were you looking for it to do that it couldn't do?
Yeah. Oftentimes the simplest statistics are the most powerful.
Hmm.
Number one KPI, key performance indicator around CRM technology is the number of leads in the system.
Okay.
If they have no leads, the agents have no reason to get on,
True.
no reason to learn how to use the system. They won't see any value of it, and they won't know how to use it to actually generate more business. So at that point, you're better off just saving the money and not having anything at all. And so we were paying 6 figures for a piece of technology that when we looked at our engagement metrics, you could count on one hand across hundreds of agents that were actually using it.
So you're
And
talking
so,
about engagement, like agent engagement, not like consumer engagement with, listing alerts or emails or anything like that.
yeah, right now we're just focusing on the agent side of things. We can get into the consumer side of things, but on the agent side of things, number of leads in the system, we couldn't get them to put their SOI into it because
Hmm.
Boomtown put all the leads in one pot and they were all mixed up. So they had
Okay.
a natural resistance to doing that because rightfully they were fearful of basically people poaching their own SOI.
Oh, that makes sense.
So when we switched to Lofty, we actually had 6 figures worth of private leads added into the system over the next 12 months. So that was a big aha moment where agents not only had the security they needed, but they saw value in the system. So they took their SOIs and they imported it into our system as opposed to not using a CRM or paying for a separate system.
So what are if someone wants to start a team and they're looking for a system, like what are some features that, you often hear like the CRM that works is the one that you use. And I mean, I feel like, okay, maybe, but there are certain things that you probably do need no matter how much you use a system. But like, what are you looking for in a CRM? What are you looking forward to do in order to, create a team and grow?
Yeah, there's a study out of Harvard Business Review, which basically looked at, the average pieces of technology in a brokerage was 12. The more additional pieces of technology you add to your ecosystem, engagement across the board will drop. So
Oh,
you're
that's
making, yeah, when you're making a decision as to what piece of technology you want to use to power your team, you should first and foremost look at the breadth of what it can do.
mm-hmm.
So in other words, if you have a CRM, but then you have a separate company doing your website, separate company doing your ads, and then you have a separate business management platform, and you're using separate e-signature, you're adding in all these different pieces. So
Mm-hmm.
what CRM out there can actually be an operating system, handling everything from CMAs to transaction management to hosting the website. And if you look at a comparative analysis, Lofty is really the only one on the market right now that can do all those things at a very high level.
So you in order to grow engagement, basically you want one login and then have all of those pieces put together into one as much as you possibly can, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you have DocuSign and you have all of
Follow-up balls, you have to, oh, did I lose signal?
No, Robert, you're good. I think Nick lost signal.
Okay, give him a
So you
second.
keep running.
Okay, let's see, I'll check the chat box. I see it opening up. Yeah, so follow-up boss is it's a great system. I basically equivocate, it's the equivalent of like the frame of a car, and then you have to go out and build and integrate all the different pieces. So follow-up boss would be exactly an example of having to go out and get all these additional pieces to fill different gaps in your business. Now, it's very easy to use, it is what it is. But for our standpoint, when we're trying to have a technology solution that works across many different teams and hundreds of agents, what we have found is single point of use and driving all the engagement and adoption of that single point of use, that technology, that one piece of technology is what's been most effective. If you guys want to put into the chat box any other additional questions, I'll tackle those. Otherwise, I can share a couple things that we do with the technology that to generate business. So while that's in the chat box, I'll go ahead and share this now. So one of the things that we've done, so one of the aspects around
I'm
Boomtown
back.
hey, no worries. All right, so what I was just sharing is another different aspect. So you had alluded to the consumer side of things. So how do we use the technology? Okay, we've leaped the first hurdle, which is to get our agents to use it and see value. The next hurdle is how do we use it to reach out to consumers to actually generate business? And so when we were on Boomtown, we had no visibility or transparency around our campaigns. And so when we had made the decision to switch over, we actually went and requested all the data. And the data was so convoluted, we had to spend hours just sifting through it so it would be usable to make an analysis. And what we found is that they were taking our money and they were spending in ways that was totally counterintuitive to what we found to be best practices. And now, a few years later, all of our ad spend across all of our ecosystem is done through Lofty's ads team. And last year, we actually were honored to be selected by Google as a case study for how well our campaigns performed. So if you're looking to generate business and then you're looking to use a system to actually convert it, you have a 1-2 punch right here, which we obviously have proven works at a very high level to capture leads and convert them. Now, one of the questions was like, what advice do you have for best practices for teams? Now, what I wanted to show you was what we've done in the background to really achieve these metrics. What they concluded is we basically outperformed the market by 6x on these campaigns. And so I blurred out some of the confidential data, but I wanted to show you, this is just one tab of a report that we track every month. We've done it for about 4 years now. So this is like the last 2 years. And what I wanted to show you was the breadth of all the different KPIs that we track. And this is just for the primary funnel, which we generate through the Loft ad team. So this is all the attention we're putting into so that we can monitor what you measure, or what you measure is what you can manage. So we manage all of these different KPIs. And I wanted to highlight 2 specific ones. So the first one is our costs per appointment set. So back in July 2022, it was $335, our cost for appointment set. That has since dropped to $179. Our cost per appointment met has gone from $436 down to, ignore the last month, and I'll tell you why. It's gone down to $174. Last month is a kind of an outlier because we just introduced a large new campaign, so it's in its learning phase right now. So it spiked our collective cost per leads. But if you look at the month before that, we're at 133 and 174. And this is not only because of the ads team and what they do at a very high level, but it's mostly because how we work with them to track all these data points so that we can make the right optimizations at the right time. And so this is the level of granular focus that you should have if you're going to have a team that's looking to generate business for your other agents.
So how do you calculate, if someone's curious, how do you calculate how much it costs you to to actually set the appointment or meet the person in person? Like how do you calculate that?
Great question. So very simply, the first part of the equation is the cost per lead, the cost of acquisition.
Right.
And that's the top of the funnel. But we also introduced the human cost of it. So the cost of our ISAs. So our ISAs can make a set number of calls per day, per week, per month, per year. And so we're able to add in basically a cost of the time it took to nurture and convert that opportunity, and then compare that to the numbers of appointments set. So that's how we get it. So we're combining the cost per the lead acquisition and the cost of the lead conversion to get us those figures right there. And,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'll just say, why is that second piece so important? Because if you're going to go out and spend a boatload of money on Facebook leads, you'll get a lot of cheap leads.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them will be bogus. The MQL rate will be super low. So what we have found is it took so much time from our ISAs to reach out to these leads, to sift through them, to nurture them and convert them, that it took a lot more manpower to convert those lower converting leads than acquiring a better quality lead and then having the people target those leads. So that's why it's really important to ascribe a value of time and manpower to convert them.
And what's the cost of a closing? Do you have that?
I could pull those. I didn't share them on.
If you don't have it readily available, don't worry.
What I'll tell you is our lead funnel is up 92% year over year, and our ROI has never been higher. And what I'll show you one example of what I did have, because I figured this question would come up, and it ties right back to where we started, which is you acquire a lead. That's a hard input cost. It's a sunk cost. You're nurturing and converting that opportunity. Now, when you convert that opportunity, your mindset should be that of like just a killer. How do I capture as much compensation to drive that ROI up? And so here is an Alta from 2 weeks ago. I just pulled up our Altas and just screenshotted this and captured it here. And so we collected $59,400 plus a $3,300 admin fee. And the other agent collected $13,200. And so if you're asking the question, why should you join a team? The number one thing should be, well, how will that team help me make as much money per transaction as possible. And our goal is to help any agent or any team we partner with to check that answer off, which is they are the highest commission earning per transaction agent in their area, bar none. And so if you like the idea of delivering a higher quality service to your clients and making a lot more money for the same amount of time, then, we're a solution for you.
There's a question. Okay, who built out your pages and integrates the campaigns?
I did. Our marketing team did a great job too.
Okay, so you guys create the campaigns within in-house?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And the website?
Our marketing team did a great job. There's lots of different tools you can use out there. If you're trying to do it at a really high level to track how, there's some tools that actually can heat map consumer eyeballs to see how they're tracking on your website. But there's tons of great books out there on how you're building out. Lofty's CMS tool is really great. You start with a template, and you have a lot of flexibility around it. In terms of the smart plans, we put a lot of time into developing those. However, Lofty does have an extensive library of smart plans that you can use, plug and play, or you can edit and make it your own.
There is a question in the chat. Would you repeat what Lofty provides, including leads and so on and so forth? So what do they provide? They provide a website. They provide what are the things?
Okay, so yeah, CRM with a front-end IDX website integrated to your MLSs. And then if you wish to, you can also do advertising campaigns across all the major mediums: Google PPC, PMax, Facebook remarketing, targeting, reach campaigns. You can do, even ads across YouTube. I'm sure I'm missing a few, LinkedIn, but anywhere you can place an ad that has eyeballs, you can do it through the ads team. And that's at your discretion of how you want to do that. With the agents on the team would use it and upload their own SOI. If I'm not getting that question, you can pop in and ask it again. But yes, there's different ways that agents can upload their own SOI contacts. They can do it manually. They can do it through a CSV import. They can do it through Google Contacts. They can do it from their phone and just sync their contacts list. So your goal should be to get every one of your agents to at least 400 contacts in their database. And when you're doing that, it's very common for agents to be like, oh, I don't have 400 leads. BS, you don't. Pull out their phone and say, how many contacts do you have in your phone? Fantastic. That person is giving you permission to call them. Put it in your CRM. And so virtually all of our agents surpass that metric within the first 48 hours because we all know that they have, over 400 people, either from their mailing list, their CRM, previous CRM, or their phone book.
What's the 400? Like, what's the science around having 400 contacts?
All right, so it's a great question. So we run a database management strategy, which basically has them seek to qualify and rate leads in their database. So that I give you an analogy. I played baseball before, as you know, Nick. And my last season of spring training, we had 219 players report to camp, and they had to cut down to 125, which means every day the front office was rating us to try to find the best combination of 125 players. Now, if they had been able to keep 200 or 219, maybe they would have, giving them more options. But because they couldn't, they were constantly, evaluating and ascribing a value. And so we train our people to do the same, which is you may have 2,000 or 3,000 leads in your contact list, but your job is to constantly find the top 400, and then within those, the top 40. Now, that's the first part. The second part of it is many people will set a goal of 100 or 200 leads in their database. The problem with that is that if that's your goal and you underperform, your SOL. We set our goal at 400 with the idea of if we get at least 60% of that goal, success. And so we set our goal so high that even if they come up short by 40%, they're still satisfying the base minimum that we know that they need to have in their database to be successful.
Got it. How much money do you spend on ISAs per month? And is that the main source of converting the leads, or do the agents also help with follow-up?
Okay, so we invest very significantly in our ISA team. It's like the Ferrari, so it's not for everyone. I mean, we have a full ISA team. It's run by the former director of ISAs at Rocket Mortgage. We have a full quality assurance team that follows up with opportunities. The answer is once we transfer it to an agent, the agent will then pick up the follow-up with the supervision of our quality assurance team. And if anything fails our QA, we can kick it right back to the ISA. So it's a more nuanced approach to that, but we have a fairly large ISA team.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. And guys, you guys have any questions? Let us know if you have any more questions in the chat. Okay, here's one. Do you have tips for finding the most valuable leads? You mentioned Facebook leads not being as good. Well, yeah, they're mostly very top of funnel and they take longer to convert. But what's your best lead source?
We're very successful on Google across all their different styles of campaigns. But here's the difference. If we look at how generally real estate agents go about capturing leads, I mean, it's really what generally agents are looking for is the path of least resistance, which is why
Mm-hmm.
they spend so much money with the Realtor and Zillow.com. It's not
Right.
like those leads are better in terms of their conversion rate. And if you're on Flex, they're certainly not better in terms of ROI.
Mm-hmm.
But why do people do it? Because they don't know what to do. They don't know what they don't know. And they just want to flip a switch and get some leads, check a box.
Right.
Where if you want to be very successful at this, start your top of funnel at Google, which will be more expensive on the front end. But if you do your job on the back end, it'll be much higher ROI. But anyone can spend on Google. Anyone can spend on Facebook. It's really just a matter of who has the aptitude and the appetite to spend and how much do they want to spend.
Right. And
You
Google's gonna be more money, just so you guys know, but the leads are
better.
usually, yeah, better. They're usually further along in the stage of
Yeah.
buying or selling.
They're showing more intent, specific intent, what they searched for got them to you so you can be creative in how you target. But again, everyone's fighting over the same sandbox on PPC.
Hmm.
If you really want to do good, if you really want to outperform, it's on the content marketing. And that's where Facebook can come in. So what content are you creating to re-engage
Hmm.
them and drive them down the funnel? And so that's
Right.
where you can really differentiate yourself if you come up with really good offers. This is another thing we help our teams which is how do you make an offer to the consumers that's different than what any other agent's offering so that then when they see it, it's like, it's not just, oh, it's just another run of the mill agent promising the
Yeah.
world. It's like, wow, that's totally different. I'm intrigued. Let's get in touch.
Yeah. Give me like an example of an offer.
All right, I'll give you one. Um, this is something we're doing very effectively right now. Um, actually, that's proprietary. I'll give you one today, actually. Rates,
You could tell us, but we'd all have to sign an NDA.
yeah, rates dropped today. So if you
Okay.
look at rates this year, rates are higher than they were even a year ago. Um, but rates dropped today and there's a Fed meeting. So we pushed a note out to our database, basically that rates had dropped and we made them an offer around, purchasing a home. That was for our buyer database,
Mhm.
centered around that, there's a great incentive right now to buy a home.
Okay. Okay, got it. And um, so the offer was, not really an offer then. It was more of like a notification, right? Like
Yeah,
this is the time to jump on it.
our offers are tied to our sales systems and what we use. So our offers will make certain guarantees of time frame and sale price to
I
them.
got it.
So yeah, those
Okay,
are specific offers.
cool. Sweet. Anything else you want to add? I mean, I feel like, I've always been on teams. And I feel like, with what the consumer expects, especially now, um, to have that leverage and to have, that everyone behind you helping, um, you know, there's always going to be someone available. You never walk into, let's just, You never walk into a car dealership and see one guy who's selling the cars and doing the mechanic work. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
someone for everything. So it's kind of you can't really, if you want to grow to the next level, there's only so much you can do on your own.
Yeah,
And
and so I'll just run down a list of some notes. So that's basically what people call pay side activities. So when you're a solo agent and you're starting off your business and you got plenty of time and you're handling consumers one at a time, clients, and you're doing everything, you have the time. But as you grow your business, your time is stretched thinner and thinner. And at that point, you instead of focusing on pay side activities, which is lead gen, serving clients, generating revenue, you're now servicing the business. You're updating the MLS. You're coordinating inspections. You're coordinating marketing. You're doing all these things that do not directly generate revenue. And so that's one of the benefits of the team where you're focusing on pay side activities, which is how do you get paid? Get business, get those buyers to buy or get those clients to buy from you more times and get them to pay you more. And so you're focusing on those things and letting the team, if the team is providing adequate value, the team will handle the rest.
love it. Sweet. This has been fun. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate Lofty helping us out. If you want to check out Lofty, the link has been posted in the chat, and I believe there's a special. I'm not sure what the special is exactly. Oh, 10% off, I guess. I'm not sure. If you wanna if Kendra you wanna drop in the chat what the special is. I'm not 100%. But there is one. And because you come through LCA, you'll get white glove service as usual.
Maria,
Awesome.
Maria asked a
What?
question. What are
She
your
did?
recommendations to begin a team? Do you have a resource for understanding how different teams are structured? All
No,
right,
I
so
don't see that question.
it's from Maria Morrison.
Okay.
All right, so the most important thing you can do before starting a team has nothing to do with actually the operations of it. You need to sit down and you need to write down in clear as day what your standards are for the team. And the standards have to be very well defined, which is that's where you're drawing the line. If someone doesn't measure up to that standard, they do not have a place on your team. That needs to be defined from day one. Otherwise, you're going to have a constant creep and people are going to be on the team that don't meet those standards, and you're just going to be a downward spiral. You're going to lose your mind. And so what you need to do is you need to establish those standards. Do not soften them at all. In a recruiting appointment, it's common to try to, in a desire to try to close the person, you're going to soften your standards. You're going to sandwich them. Hey, we require lead gen every day, but if you want some time off or if you want some exceptions, or hey, you live 30 minutes away, so we'll make an exception for you. If you soften it, you'll get what you tolerate. And so you need to establish your standards. You need to recruit people that align to those standards at the outset. And then you need to basically enforce them routinely and equally across all your agents. If you do that, you'll have a solid foundation to build your team upon. But most people go from a solo agent. When they start a team, they basically just start bringing on other agents.
Mm-hmm.
Don't actually establish a business around them. They're just a glorified agent with some assistants, agents around them.
Very good advice. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. The replay is on the Lab Code Agents YouTube channel because it was streaming live, so you can go and rewatch it if you want to. Click on the link to get a Lofty discount and talk to someone over there. Rob, thanks so much for being on. Appreciate it. Lots of good information.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.